What's up, everybody? It's the Mattress Guy speaking to you live from Japan. Now, today is the 27th of June, Saturday, 2026, and it's not the best time being outside, right? Today, at this very moment, because there are, guys, two typhoons hitting Tokyo, where I live, almost simultaneously, like bang bang, which I think is the first time in history, as per the news. So, I'll be ranting, whatever, from the comfort of my home, yeah, like this. Anyway. So, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to talk about today? Well, I know you have seen the title, yes, right? Well, today, I would like to delve into some of the most notable traps that you would likely to encounter shall you step into this industry of IT, because nobody likes goddamn surprises, yeah? And how it sucks being an IT engineer unless you genuinely really love what you're doing, like myself. So so much so that some people tell me, you're not doing this for money, are you? So, well, they are absolutely right. Now, if you have seen my previous video on overcoming job phobia, yeah, I think that was last week. You would remember that, and I said many people run away, from their responsibilities in my line of work, and that I wasn't exaggerating, man. It's like So today I'm going to tell you a number, all right? This is to make a sense out of what I said. God, it's hot today. and behold, guys, that is 800,000. Or, that being said, close to 1 million, maybe, right? So can you just think for a minute and I guess what that number is about? Well, it's a number of skill shortage in the tech sector for Japan alone. By the time we reach the year of 2035 or so, the news article has warned us a few years back. I think it was 2 years ago, by the way. So, but to me, who has been there in 8 different workplaces, right? Going around 8 different workplaces in 23 years, that number sounds very, very marginalized at best. And ain't that like what any government does in the world anyway? Or that number is heavily rigged to my very sort of harsh end of the opinion. So, in fact, I would say that the ratio of people who's actually doing the work or being the breadwinner, yeah, in an IT department versus those who are just pen pushing like this, pen pushing every day in the office, like how you see people doing in the United Nations. Sorry, I'm so to say this, man. It's I sort of detest United Nations, but behold, the ratio is 1 to 20. Yeah, so I just said 1 to 20, and that means if you have 100 people, right, in an IT department, you have just 5 people who are being the essential worker, actually driving the business, right? And that is just how poor the retention rate is for the essential workers here in this industry. Yeah. What do you think about that? So it feels like, you have a military, right, with 10,000 generals and just 1 petty officer, right? so you think about that for a minute and tell me just how sustainable that unbalanced army is. So it's so hot today. So anyway, so now that you know that I wasn't exaggerating, or hopefully you have the idea anyway, it is so bad, you would not want to be there for long unless you have a genuine passion in what you're doing. So from here, I will confide, right, you some of the traps lurking in the corner that make many people, including the college graduates, loathe being an IT engineer. Yeah. So let's get on with it. So reason number one, right? There is a strong sense of job security in this culture. So much so that nobody, right, teaches you anything. Of course, they will teach you things on the surface, right? On the surface, because they want to be seen from the management that they are doing something, but they seldom teach you in a genuine sense or in any meaningful way in the long run. And see, the reality is that if people sort of brusquely throw some tasks at your desk, bang, on your table, right, that are impossible to finish, if not even to put a start without a background in technology, right? Ain't that so mean, right? And in fact, if you so much as to pester people around in your vicinity who seem to know what they're doing, right? They will be nice enough to tell you to piss off. You'd be looking for a new job involuntarily. And forgive me, guys, and there's so much for my sarcasm. But this is the culture in IT. So what do you need to do? What can you do? The only friend here to help you in your workplace is Google, right? Google, or an AI if you are lucky enough to have a company that allows you to have a license, right? And you will have to risk your career from making mistakes, because I'm afraid there's no other way. And that was me. That was me in the back 23 years ago. And I don't care how many people disagree with me in this video, right? Because I have already given you the number, haven't I? Right? That is a strong indication, and that is a strong reminder that this job isn't the most altruistic culture. And every company has its own secret to hide, like a haunted house that you see in Stephen King's movie. I don't know if you like his books or movies, but Stephen King is my favorite author. All in all, even if you do end up making a mistake, most of the time all you need to worry about is to make a report, write-ups on how that mistake can be prevented the next time around. Right. So that was reason number one for you. Or should I say it was trap number one. And reason number two, or trap number two, I should say, you could become a pariah for being too good at your job. And why is that the case? Well, let me show you a separate video here. One moment. Now, you can see this PowerPoint diagram here depicting a pyramid of hierarchy. Now, whose starting point is typically called novice, as in novice engineer. Now, typically speaking, you spend about a few years reading certification books, as well as doing some hands-on work which you might not fully understand yet, but nobody blames you anyway. Well, not much anyway. And after some years of getting familiar with how things work, you rise up in the hierarchy, and to become a professional, who is now capable of troubleshooting a small to medium scale system, but you still have this what's called a boundary of responsibility that you seldom step outside of. And then you become very good at what you're doing within the boundary of responsibility. You become an expert, right, who doesn't need supervision, or rather, you are the supervisor. And maybe after 15 to 20 years of work, you become knowledgeable for several different responsibilities, so much so that many people feel an awry without your presence. But there is a point where you could know and do too much, such that some people might deem you a risk to the company's safety, right? So all the terminologies have this positive sentiment right up to the point of reaching essential, and from there they see you as some kind of a mad scientist doing something in their backyard. Right now, it's like you don't piss off anyone, right, who can do things to you, right? Did anyone go up to Steven Seagal and say you're fired? I don't think so. But when you become too good at too many things, you start to sort of look like Steven Seagal, who is about to do something, and you are a walking weapon, so to speak. Yeah, guys. So the management starts to look at you as a liability. Once they notice you that you are being too good at too many things, whereupon they don't want you around. And the reason is that if you know how to build things, this is their mentality. If you know how to build things, well, you know how to break things too, right? And that is exactly what the management finds it less than comfortable, right? They just don't want somebody, right, capable of breaking down the company, hanging around in office, and let alone being employed. Shall you go mad one day, yeah? And so you'd be wise to find another job unless you don't mind keeping a low profile. So now, just in case, you're wondering exactly how I'm doing, right? I work full-time for a consulting company because it suits me to sell my skills in an hourly manner, right? Rather than taking a permanent residence, right? In a company that doesn't want you around permanently anyway. And while they do appreciate my skills for the time being, I guess. That is called BAU, or a business as usual. But if that goes away, it's time for me to look for a new job. Yeah. So that is my posture. That's how I'm doing. So let's go to reason number 3, or trap number 3, or however you want to call it. All in all, the pay is peanuts. So why is that the case? Well, I'll tell you what, man. If your pay is good, on the contrary, your job is likely involved in a project which has what's called a deadline. Yeah, deadline. And you are likely to be a professional who is capable of delivering the requirements. Now, that is in plain English, and you know what you're doing. And that's what I mean. And by the time you reach that deadline, though, the company doesn't want you around, which means you are likely to be told to leave with a pretext like, we have an AI to replace you, so piss off. So that's what they tell you. And on the other hand, right, and I feel like treadmilling or pen pushing, like I said a while ago in office, and you do have a quality of your own, in a way of saying that is. No, this is not a sarcasm, right? Forgive me. And that is totally fine in putting food on your table because you have a family to look after, yeah? But there's a catch. And the catch is that the pay isn't exciting either. And as if that's not enough, compromise. And what you have to watch out for being a pen pusher is that you cannot do, listen carefully to this, you cannot do or say anything right when you know that everyone else is doing wrong and heading towards the iceberg, like Titanic. You see, it's like you have to go down with a ship as a gesture, right, of your loyalty. Because if you do so much as to raise a bell or be contentious, that is considered a sacrilege amongst the higher management, like you have gone over their heads, and you will be a fair game of their wrath, whereupon you can say goodbye to your paycheck. And reason number 4, or trap number 4, every day is a coup or coup d'etat in a management. Now, as long as you are working in a corporate, you are no stranger to the politics, right? And in fact, the company I once worked for had 24 managers, including the C-level managers, turning over in 6 years. How crazy is that, guys? And that tells you that it's not the most stable organization you have ever heard of, if not being a civil war every day, right? In fact, one of the ex-CIOs has confided to me face to face, right, that he was fed up with ongoing killings, amongst the managers. And that's what he said, man, killings, which in case, and I don't think there is a shred of good intention in them that would honestly evaluate your good work anyway, right? If you get my point. And so, anyway, today, I have shared here points to watch out for, and shall you step into the industry to become an IT engineer? And it is an awful world out there, man. So here is what I do to recharge every weekend, just before I finish. And as you have seen, me in my previous videos, I do a lot of walking, yeah, and in nature. And in nature is a manifestation of God that brings you power and inspiration, and that recharges you physically and spiritually before you have to take on the upcoming week. So I'm just hoping that you do the same, and thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. I didn't think I was going to see you this soon, but I'm here to tell you about a little joke, as usual, on evaluation this time, right? Since I mentioned about evaluation a few minutes ago. And just in case you're pissed off about your company disabled performance review or your evaluation. Anyway, it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a great war between Britain and Spain, yeah? And those of you, who have studied history, you would know that it was Britain that won the war. And by the way, they managed to win the war because their sailors, their navy, I should say, consumed vitamin C from lemons. Interesting. And that successfully has beaten scurvy, which is known as the sailor's disease, whose symptom is bleeding gum and falling teeth, which is horrible, horrible, horrible disease. Now, the joke goes, the Spaniards, right, they started bitching, saying, "Why did we lose?" Right? So to which the Briton kindly said, "Well, we won the war because we prayed to God every day, Almighty." To which the Spaniards shot back saying, "But we pray to God every day as well." To which the Briton said, "Oh, you have to speak in English."